SpongeBob fans have been spinning theories for years, some hilarious, some downright creepy, and most dismissed as typical internet nonsense. But here's the wild part, a surprising number of these theories actually hold weight, from the idea that Bikini Bottom is a nuclear fallout zone, to theories about Squidward's mental health or Mr. Krabs' war-torn past. Many of these ideas aren't just fan fiction anymore. The show's creators, writers, and even the episodes themselves have quietly confirmed more than you'd think. And once you start connecting the dots, you realize SpongeBob SquarePants is hiding way more beneath the surface. SpongeBob isn't just a goofy kids cartoon, it's bizarre, surreal, and strangely layered. It somehow manages to mix slapstick comedy with a darker, more complex undertone. And if you've ever paused to question things, like why there's a beach underwater, why a squirrel in a spacesuit is the smartest character, or why Mr. Krabs seems to be the only crab, it's because the show constantly breaks its own logic. But in doing so, it creates a weirdly consistent world where theories start to feel possible. That's what makes these theories so compelling. Some are pure imagination. Others, the show itself ends up backing them up. In this breakdown, we're not just rattling off fan ideas, we're diving into the ones that actually got confirmed or heavily hinted at by the show itself. We're talking about the nuclear origin of Bikini Bottom, the mystery behind Mr. Krabs, why Squidward's sadness hits so hard, what each character might actually symbolize, and what the writers have quietly slipped into the show for years. Let's start with the big one, Bikini Bottom's location. It's not random. It's under the real-life Bikini Atoll, a site in the Pacific where the US tested 23 nuclear bombs in the 1940 SN50s. That's historical fact. So when you start seeing a talking sponge, fire underwater, and bizarre human-like sea creatures, it makes eerie sense. Steven Hillenburg, SpongeBob's creator, was a marine biologist before he was an animator. He knew what Bikini Atoll was, and he deliberately set SpongeBob's world right beneath it. He never said the radiation theory outright, but he didn't need to. The implications are baked into the show, and it gets darker with Mr. Krabs. Sure, he's greedy, but there are hints that he's also deeply traumatized. The theory suggests he's a war veteran, possibly from a fictional underwater conflict called the Anchor War, which he references multiple times. Combine that with the unsettling idea that he might be the last surviving crab in Bikini Bottom, and suddenly his obsession with money and his intense behavior take on a more tragic tone. These aren't just far-fetched ideas, they're part of a pattern, and once you start seeing it, SpongeBob feels a lot less random and a lot more calculated. Take a closer look around Bikini Bottom. Notice anything strange? You never see any other crabs. Not in the background, not in the Krusty Krab, just Mr. Krabs and a whale daughter. That detail alone raises eyebrows. According to one theory, Krabs might be the last of his kind, a survivor of a war, the so-called Anchor War, which he references in multiple episodes. The theory suggests the war wiped out the crab population, leaving Krabs traumatized and alone. His obsession with money isn't just greed, it's a deep-seated trauma response. His stinginess and paranoia? Classic symptoms of someone stuck in survival mode. Even the Krusty Krab supports this theory. It looks like a naval mess hall. Metal floors, porthole windows, and a military-sounding name. And when you dig into certain episodes, the pieces start falling into place. Flashbacks, PTSD-style outbursts, and scenes with Krabs in full Navy gear aren't just jokes. They might be hints at a deeper backstory. One moment he's reliving battles, another he's mourning lost comrades. Maybe it's satire, or maybe the writers knew exactly what they were doing. Either way, the clues are hard to ignore. Then there's Squidward. Most people laugh off his grumpiness, but if you really look, it's more than that. He's not just annoyed, he's depressed. He works a job he hates, lives alone, and is creatively stifled. His dreams? Being an artist or musician, are constantly mocked. Episodes like "Are You Happy Now?" don't just poke fun, they dive headfirst into Squidward's emotional collapse. That particular episode was so heavy, Nickelodeon even edited it in some regions due to concerns about how closely it resembled depression and suicidal ideation. In That's No Lady, Squidward withdraws completely, moving through the episode in a flat, emotionless daze. He shows all the signs: burnout, loneliness, hopelessness. But the show doesn't always treat it like a joke. There are moments when SpongeBob tries to reach him, help him feel better. Occasionally, Squidward even wins, and it feels genuinely deserved. This theory isn't just compelling, it's painfully real. One of the most fascinating theories started as a joke on message boards, but gained serious traction over time. Each of the main characters in SpongeBob represents one of the 7 deadly sins. It sounds like a stretch until you lay it out. SpongeBob is lust, not sexual, but emotional. He's obsessively affectionate, overly enthusiastic, and deeply attached to everything, even a piece of paper. Patrick is sloth. He lives under a rock, literally. Sleeps all day, never works. Squidward is wrath, constantly angry, irritable, and prone to outbursts. Krabs is greed. His whole life revolves around money, even at the expense of others. Plankton is envy. He's obsessed with Krabs' success and spends every moment trying to steal what he doesn't have. Sandy is pride, brilliant and proud of it. She never lets anyone forget she's smarter and tougher than everyone else. Gary is gluttony, always eating, constantly demanding food, and throwing tantrums if he doesn't get it. Ian Hillenburg never explicitly confirmed this, but the character traits are too consistent to dismiss. It might not be canon, but it fits way too well to be coincidence. This next theory quietly flips the entire show on its head. SpongeBob SquarePants wasn't originally made just for kids. Seriously, let's rewind a bit. Stephen Hillenburg, the marine biologist turned animator, originally pitched SpongeBob as a show for adults on networks like Comedy Central. The humor was weird, dry, and filled with awkward pauses and surreal moments. Sure, kids laughed at the slapstick, but adults picked up on the hidden meanings. Early episodes like Rock Bottom, The Graveyard Shift, and Nasty Patty tackled surprisingly dark themes: isolation, paranoia, even accidental murder. Season 1 through 3 especially feel different, more like edgy adult animation than the bright, hyperactive stuff kids are used to. These characters talk about rent, anxiety, and existential burnout. Mr. Krabs' greed is more unsettling than funny. Squidward? He's the poster child for overworked millennials, and let's not even get started on the innuendos. Remember the panty raid or SpongeBob's inflatable girlfriend? Yeah, that really aired on a kids' network. Nickelodeon eventually leaned into the family-friendly branding, but the DNA of those early seasons is clear. Watch it now as an adult, and it's obvious. This show was layered on purpose. One layer for kids, another for the grown-ups paying attention. Now for another overlooked theory that actually makes a lot of sense. Sandy Cheeks might be a government spy. Think about it. She's the only land animal in Bikini Bottom. She lives in a high-tech dome, runs secretive experiments, writes reports, and somehow has access to advanced machinery, rockets, labs, robotics, all while just being a squirrel from Texas. In her debut episode, she's already fully prepared to interact with sea life. In Chimps Ahoy, we even meet her surface-based supervisors, scientists checking in on her research. Suddenly, Sandy looks less like a quirky character and more like a full-blown agent on assignment. And finally, the biggest mystery of the entire series: what's in the Krabby Patty's secret formula? The show has teased it for over 2 decades, never revealing it, always dodging the question, which led to one unsettling theory. The Krabby Patty contains crab meat, and considering Mr. Krabs is the only crab in Bikini Bottom, that theory is way darker than anyone expected. Let's break this last one down. because it might be the creepiest theory yet. Mr. Krabs is the only crab in Bikini Bottom. His restaurant shaped like a lobster trap. He never eats his own food. He guards the Krabby Patty formula like it holds some dark secret. And in one episode, when Plankton tries to recreate the patty, the ingredients hint at actual meat. Then there's the scene in Midlife Crustacean where Krabs dumpster dives without flinching, surrounded by rotten food. All of that adds fuel to one disturbing theory, that the Krabby Patty's secret formula is crab meat. And Mr. Krabs made his fortune by serving his own kind. It's twisted, it's grim, and no, the show never confirms it outright, but it leans into the suspicion just enough to keep fans guessing. And if it were true, it would instantly make SpongeBob one of the darkest cartoons ever aired for kids. But here's the bigger point. Why do these theories stick? Because SpongeBob has always been more than it appears. On the surface, it's a goofy cartoon, but underneath, it's weird, surreal, even philosophical. The writers created a world full of strange details, unspoken backstories, and just enough ambiguity to spark curiosity. And that's why people keep digging into it decades later, not just for the jokes, but for the mystery. These fan theories force us to look closer, to pay attention to background gags, offhand lines, and subtle patterns. And whether or not you believe them, they remind us what great storytelling can do: entertain and make us think. So go rewatch those early episodes. Look for the clues you missed. Maybe a joke isn't just a joke. Maybe there's something deeper going on in Bikini Bottom. And if you've got your own theory, drop it in the comments. We're listening, because in SpongeBob's world, nothing is ever just what it seems.